There's a lot I'd like to cover today. So if you have any questions directly related to what I'm reading, please let me know. But let's hold off on the comments and discussion until we're done and we go around the room. I'm going to just go over something that I read Tuesday. It's important to bring this all together. The Buddha's words: always mindful of the breath, he breathes in. Always mindful of the breath, he breathes out. Simple instructions, isn't it? No need to get, or no reason to get too distracted by that. When breathing in long, he notices, I am breathing in long. That one line is the beginning where a lot of people go off the rails, thinking that that's instructions for a meditation session focused on long breaths. And if you remember this in the whole context and read it in the whole context, the Buddha's just saying, if you find yourself breathing long, notice it. Don't do anything to it. Don't manipulate it. Don't change it. Don't make a whole meditation session out of a long breath or a short breath. Simply notice it. Breathing out long, he notices, I am breathing out long. Or when breathing in short, he notices, I am breathing in short. Or when breathing out short, he notices, I am breathing out short. No instruction to manufacture that breath at all. Just notice it. He trains himself. And I often, when I'm editing suttas, I usually try to make them gender neutral as often as possible. But remember the setting here. The Buddha is addressing, this is early in the Buddha's teachings, there are just monks established, and so he's just addressing monks here. He trains himself, I will breathe in sensitive to the entire body, bringing the mind into the body. It's an important line. And what is that word? Of course, these are Pali words that these are translated to, but this translation is by Thanissaro Bhikkhu, who is, I think, the most authentic translator. Sensitive simply means to notice that you're in a body. We're not supposed to do anything else with that except notice that you're breathing and you're sensitive to your body. You're in your body. He trains himself, I will breathe out, sensitive to the body, to the entire body. I'm going to skip over a little bit. He trains himself, I will breathe in, calming bodily fabrications. By breathing in, bodily fabrications calm. Meaning simply sensations that would otherwise prove distracting, or that we might find that we have to investigate, figure out where they're coming from, why are they here, why am I feeling this way? Simply notice it. And by being mindful of your breath, bodily fabrications will calm. There's been many studies showing that meditation, and really, to be honest, most meditation practices are great for relieving pain. John Kabat-Zinn, mindfulness-based stress reduction, that was his initial focus, was can we use these mindfulness techniques to diminish the pain in the body? And he proved that it's true. And I can tell you, because of things that have happened in my life, I have a lot of pain in my body. I never notice pain when I'm in a meditation session. It's the best opioid out there. He trains himself, I will breathe out, calming bodily fabrication. He trains himself, I will breathe in, sensitive to rapture. Rapture is a kind of an archaic term, usually related to the Christian interpretation. It's the end of everything. Rapture in this sense means that we are deeply and joyfully engaged in the Dhamma. We're filled with rapture because we've discovered something that will actually deliver what it promises. He trains himself, I will breathe out, sensitive to rapture. He trains himself, I will breathe in, sensitive to pleasure, simply noticing that pleasure arises. The overarching theme here, though, is to deepen concentration and notice the inconstancy, the impermanence of all things, including pleasure. He trains himself, I will breathe out, sensitive to pleasure. He trains himself, I will breathe in, sensitive to mental fabrications. I will breathe out, sensitive to mental fabrications. Again, this is starting to point to the five clinging aggregates. And a little bit further on, he gets, well, I'll read it. But again, notice that a fabrication has arisen. A fabrication is simply another thought that is rooted in ignorance. It's a thought that is wrapped around an assumption around who we think we are in relation to the world. It's an assumption born of ignorance. Simply notice it. I will breathe in, calming those fabrications. He trains himself, I will breathe out, calming mental fabrications. He trains himself, I will breathe in, sensitive to the mind. It simply means sensitive to ongoing thoughts flowing. They're not distracting anymore. But noticing that the instructions too, we're conscious beings, thoughts should be flowing. They are flowing. The purpose of meditation is not to find a blank slate. That type of meditation is an escapist type of meditation. I don't even want to be here with my own thoughts. Thoughts are flowing. Be sensitive that thoughts are flowing without letting them be a distraction. He trains himself, I will breathe out, calming the mind. He trains himself, I will breathe in, steadying the mind, concentration. He trains himself, I will breathe out, steadying the mind. He trains himself, I will breathe in, releasing the mind. What a powerful statement. Really, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that we lose our minds. It means we're no longer clinging to the ongoing, clinging to one thought, following the next thought, to the next thought. The beginning of spaciousness in our thoughts. The beginning of the ability to deepen concentration and gain insight. How can we gain insight if we're clinging tenaciously one thought to the next thought to the next thought? He trains himself, I will breathe in, releasing the mind. He trains himself, I will breathe out, releasing the mind. With each breath, with each in-breath and out-breath, I'm letting go of clinging to thoughts. He trains himself, I will breathe in, focusing on impermanence. He trains himself, I will breathe out, focusing on impermanence. He trains himself, I will breathe in, focusing on dispassion. He trains himself, I will breathe out, focusing on dispassion. These are direct teachings on how to experience the interaction between yourself and any phenomena that's arising within the body. Simply take another breath. He trains himself, I will breathe in, focusing on cessation, meaning being mindful of the cessation of clinging to thoughts. He trains himself, I will breathe out, focusing on cessation, noticing it. He trains himself, I will breathe in, focusing on relinquishment, the final letting go, the final abandonment of clinging to wrong views. Remember when the Buddha describes awakening, he says that a mind that is rooted in right view has a profound understanding of dukkha, of the core problem, and it's a mind that is calm and released from clinging. And he refers to it again here in the sutta. He trains himself, I will breathe out, focusing on relinquishment. This is how mindfulness of the in and out breathing is developed and pursued to be of great benefit. And again, just to remind yourselves of the overall context and theme, he's explaining how this group of monks has developed the Heartwood of the Dhamma. They developed mindfulness of in and out breathing to be, that they developed it and pursued it to be of great benefit. So now the Buddha's bringing the 4 foundations of mindfulness into this sutta. Now, how is mindfulness of the in-breath and the out-breath appropriately developed so as to bring the 4 frames of reference, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, to their culmination? The mindfulness that the Buddha taught rests on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And you remember as we were going through that, maybe it was a while ago and there was a lot there, the Satipatthana Sutta concludes with being mindful of the 4 noble truths. Most specifically, holding in mind the factors of the Eightfold Path as the path of awakening. So again, you have to understand the context that he's referring to that here. On whatever occasion, a monk breathing in long is mindful of breathing in long, or breathing out long is mindful of breathing out long, or breathing in short is mindful of breathing in short, or breathing out short is mindful of breathing out short, they continue to train their mind. Simply being mindful of what's occurring in relation to the breath. I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to the body, meaning bringing mindfulness to the fore. It's not to get distracted by what's occurring in the body. Being mindful of your breath, bringing mindfulness to the fore. He trains himself, I will breathe in and breathe out, calming bodily fabrication. On this occasion, when this occurs, the monk remains focused on the breath in the body in and of itself. By remaining focused on the body, on the breath in the body in and of itself, bodily fabrications calm. Direct instructions on how to do that. And as I read this, I'm substituting the words free of distraction now for in and of themselves, but that's what the Buddha is referring to. In and of itself means you're not adding anything. You're not embellishing what's occurring in any way. Ardent, alert, and mindful while putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world. With reference to the world means you're no longer creating self-referential views by objectifying your thinking, by attaching yourself to things of the world. Is that clear? That's what the Buddha means, with reference to the world. We're not using the arising and passing away of phenomena to create an identity rooted in that phenomena. We're alert, we're ardent, we're mindful of doing that. Is that clear? Really, now the Buddha is teaching how we're finally gaining control of our mind.
Not clear about that. Can you just explain that?
With a self-referential ego self creates that identity through initial attachment to the things of the world that gives it pleasure and attachment to the things of the world that it hopes to avoid. Because that ongoing process is rooted in ignorance, that sounds reasonable because the self doesn't understand its place in the world, doesn't understand its own impermanence. And because of that, it thinks that it can establish something in an impermanent environment. Rather than developing the profound understanding of the nature of dukkha and the impermanence, it uses that self-establishment in reference to the world to obscure impermanence. In other words, as long as I can continue to maintain this view, I'm good to go. I've established myself. The Buddha is teaching directly in this sutta to simply notice the impermanence of all those things. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you. Great question. And again, that line with reference to the world. We no longer, as we develop a true understanding of who we are, as we let go of ignorance of Four Noble Truths, we don't use the world in reference to ourselves. In other words, I don't say that I had a bad day because I didn't get 2 pieces of chocolate cake. Whether I get 2 pieces of chocolate cake or none, it doesn't matter. I've lived a day, period. Not I've lived a good day or a bad day or even an indifferent day. I've been mindfully engaged. When you can look back on the past 24 hours and honestly say, I've been mindful for every one of those minutes in those 24 hours, that's an auspicious day. That's an awakened day. And think of that. And that we've all had that experience, maybe not for 24 hours, but we've all had the rapture that comes from being mindfully present, even if it's just for a few minutes, haven't we? Life is remarkable then, no matter what's occurring, simply because we're here for it. We are united with a breath in the body, with life as life occurs. The whole point of the Dhamma. Without the need for it to be any different, without the need for the arising and passing away of anything that's occurring in our lives to be any different than what's occurring. That's a well-concentrated mind framed by the Eightfold Path that's able to do that. We've established the Heartwood of the Dhamma. That's what the Buddha is referring to here. I tell you, monks, the in and out breath is unsurpassed as a body among bodies. I'll refer to that. I'll explain that in a moment. On the occasion that one remains focused on the body, free of distraction or in and of itself. Being focused on the body in and of itself. This doesn't need to be any different. I'm not distracted by thinking that I need to be any different or my experience needs to be any different. In and of itself. Ardent, alert, and mindful, they are putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world. So again, what Lorna brought up and what I didn't touch on before, to expand on a little bit, with reference to the world, arises from craving and clinging to what I'm craving for. It can only happen by objectifying my thinking. A body among bodies means this body is where I hope to unite my mindfulness into. Rather than all the physical phenomena, meaning the bodies, everything that's arising. It's a singular arising. And this gets into, and I won't get too far into it because I want to get to a certain point today. This gets into a profound understanding of dependent origination and the discreteness of all phenomena, rather than creating a doctrine of everything is interdependent and interconnected and interbees. I don't want to get into that too deeply, but that's what the Buddha is referring to. We learn to see the discreteness of a body united with its own mind. And then from that point, we can learn, truly gain insight into the impermanence of all things. If we're obscuring that by false dharmas, and even forget that word, if we're obscuring it by ignorant views, we can never gain understanding of impermanence, can we? Because we're not here where it's occurring.
John, it seemed, so I thought the line before that was something about the breath as a body among bodies.
Yes, the in and out breath is unsurpassed as a body among bodies.
Yeah, so the breath body among the discrete arising and passing as the breath and phenomena in the body, they're all discrete. Like I was, yeah, that book.
Yes,
I'm
again,
not talking about bodies, talking about arising and passing of phenomena in our experience.
yes, and it's unsurpassed in bringing the breath into what's occurring. What is occurring to each and every individual occurs within this body. So being united.
I think that's the thing, that the breath is the thing to focus on, because it's simply it shows what's occurring in the world.
Yes, yes, it's unsurpassed in bringing you into what's occurring, rather than being distracted by all the external phenomena, including identifying with other bodies, with other people. How often do we see ourselves the way we perceive other people are seeing us? And that's one of the reasons why we get caught up in arguments, and because we're trying to manipulate other people's view of us, aren't we? When we're united, mind in the body, in this body, it doesn't matter what's occurring out there. In a sense of maintaining concentration and mindfulness.
I was
we're no longer attached to the bodies. We're no longer attached to the things of the world, because we're seeing ourselves clearly. I'm sorry, Mark.
No, just that I happened to I was reading Becoming Buddha last night, and it happened to be on, I don't know, but it was where you were talking about, it might have been, I was on Nietzsche.
It's a great book, isn't
it? It actually is. It actually is. It actually is, because I was reading the little part, you were talking about quantum mechanics and discrete waves and particles and the rising and passing and Nietzsche and impermanence and breath. And yeah, it just reminds me of what that line there, the body as a discrete, whatever.
Yep.
I can't remember the word. Body amongst bodies.
Let me
Body
thank you.
amongst bodies. So that's what I feel like it's pointing towards.
Yes, it is. Let me read I was going to pass it, but let me read my commentary on this section. It is the essence of Dhamma practice to abandon self-referential views rooted in ignorance of Four Noble Truths by integrating the Heartwood of the Dhamma, the Eightfold Path, to put aside. The Eightfold Path enables us to put aside craving and distress with reference to the world. It's the whole point of it, isn't it? To interrupt ignorant thinking, views rooted in ignorance of Four Noble Truths. My words, unsurpassed as a body among bodies, refers to a mind unified with the body and free of the distraction of clinging to external phenomena, meaning bodies. This is the essence of self-referential views and is establishing a self rooted in wrong or ignorant views when you're objectifying your thinking. A self rooted in ignorance constantly seeks to reference itself in every thought, word, and idea that occurs. Those are other bodies. And continue to distract a mind separated from the body. It can clearly be seen here that remaining mindful of the four frames of reference, the four foundations of mindfulness, the breath in the body, feelings and thoughts arising and passing away, and a stream of unconditioned thinking free of wrong views, establishes a well-concentrated mind, supporting the refined mindfulness of the Four Noble Truths. Is that clear? The whole point of the Buddha's teachings is so that we can be present and understand Four Noble Truths. And the way we do that is through the fourth truth of the Eightfold Path. And that refers to understanding and having the experience of the cessation of individual contributions to dukkha, to stress and a disappointing experience, the third noble truth. And that line, craving and distress, in reference to the world, refers directly to the second noble truth. Craving originates and clinging perpetuates dukkha. So the reason why I'm saying this, do you see how the context of the Dhamma has to be kept in mind to understand even this? But in everything that the Buddha taught references dependent origination and Four Noble Truths. And I've been talking a little bit more about this, and at some point, probably not until the summer, because there's a lot of stuff to cover. When you understand the foundational teachings or the superior teachings, and then you relate through a well-concentrated mind and a mind framed by the Eightfold Path, any sutta, you can see that just a concept such as the hindrances or one of the foundations of mindfulness, one of the aggregates or the five clinging aggregates, or a simple sutta like the Bahia Sutta or the Rahulavada Sutta or all the other ones that we talk about and learn. The essence of those contexts are included and always reference Four Noble Truths and dependent origination. If you understand the five hindrances in the proper application, you understand the whole Dhamma. If you understand five clinging aggregates, but you can't just look at five clinging aggregates as the path, because what you're going to end up doing is overanalyzing the aggregates because you don't have the frame of reference to understand form, feeling, perceptions, fabrications, and ongoing consciousness. Again, I'm emphasizing again, maybe overemphasizing, excuse me if I am, the importance of context. And that's kind of the overarching point of this. The Buddha's words, on any occasion a monk trains himself, I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to rapture. I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to pleasure. Again, simply noticing that pleasure, if I'm having a pleasant feeling, I'm simply sensitive to it. Come back to the sensation of breathing. Breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to what's occurring in the body. The Buddha is not saying generate pleasure. He's talking about whatever may occur. So you may be sensitive to rapture in one meditation. Or you may be noticing your joyful enthusiasm. Don't let even that be a distraction. Come back. Notice the in-breath and the out-breath. Notice the impermanence. You may be having an incredibly pleasurable, blissful feeling during a meditation. Don't cling to it. Notice your in-breath and your out-breath. Bring mindfulness to the fore. Don't bring pleasure. Don't create experiences by bringing other things to the fore. Bring mindfulness of the breath to the fore. I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to mental fabrications. I will breathe in and breathe out. I will breathe in and breathe out, calming mental fabrications. What I could say is I will breathe in and breathe out, so calming mental fabrications. The Buddha continues, on this occasion, the monk remains focused on feelings free of distraction in and of themselves, ardent, alert, and mindful, while putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world. Again, in that one line is the entire Dhamma. One of our Sangha members, when he first read this, he sent me an email back that day. If you're listening, David, thank you for the email. Basically saying that in this sutta is the Dhamma, and the entire Dhamma is experienced in the next breath. And it is, if that mind is well concentrated, or that breath is well concentrated and focused on the refined mindfulness of the Eightfold Path. Each breath holds the truth of the Dhamma means truth. It holds the truth of the truth. I tell you, monks, that mindfulness of in-breaths and out-breaths can be seen as a singular feeling among feelings. Going back to that idea of body among bodies. It's that singular feeling. Feeling is any movement in the mind, anything that is referencing pleasure or pain or or indifference is a feeling. That singular feeling, the being here present in this moment, is the feeling among feelings. I'm going to read it again. I tell you, monks, that mindfulness of in-breaths and out-breaths can be seen as a singular feeling among feelings, which is why a monk on this occasion remains focused on feelings in and of themselves, free of distraction. Whatever is arising in my body, it's just simply what's occurring. It's free of distraction. Ardent, alert, and mindful while putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world. Again, and you remember how this line was used in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Four Foundations of Mindfulness too. Putting aside distress in reference to the world. From craving and clinging, distress arises. My words. A feeling among feelings is reference to a calm and well-concentrated mind, not distracted by analyzing the constant flow of ever-changing impermanent mind states or feelings. For example, the common jargon referring to the qualities of mind, such as I'm feeling angry or happy or frustrated, etc., which is sometimes meditation is taught that whatever arises, you should put a label on it. Again, you can. It's not something the Buddha taught, and it's only going to serve to be a distraction. The feeling among feelings is the singular feeling of being present here in the body. That's what we're seeking. It's not analyzing or being distracted by any feelings. Because, why? Because all those feelings are impermanent. And there's no self in any of them. In the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the Buddha says if it's impermanent, how could there be a self there? So why would we try to create an identity over any feeling that we know is impermanent? And this sutta directly points to recognizing the impermanence of things that are arising rather than creating identities by analyzing or attaching ourselves or labeling them. Simply notice what's arising.
John, isn't that though, like what you just described, isn't that more like a mental fabrication? I'm feeling sad.
It is, yeah.
And so feelings are pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Kind of the Vedas are below. Once we attach something, some label to it, it's becoming. It's
objectified.
Yeah.
We've lost our mind. We're out of our bodies.
Yeah, that's.
When we start doing that, whenever we even though the feeling that we're objectifying is obviously occurring in the body, as soon as we create a fabrication of it, it's like we've taken a snapshot and we put it out here and says, that's my mind here. It's in that fabrication. It's not simply here with what's occurring, because what's occurring is always in a state of impermanence. And if we're present for what's occurring through a well-concentrated mind that is framed by the Eightfold Path, then in this moment, I'm becoming awakened. If I'm still objectifying my thoughts, I'm only ignoring my own ignorance. I'm becoming more ignorant. That's the whole point of the ninth factor or the ninth chain in dependent origination. Clinging and maintaining leads to further becoming. If we continue that, we're only going to become more ignorant. If we can find a way through the Eightfold Path and proper meditation to interrupt that thinking, then we can become awakened. Thank you, Mark. Please.
So in that moment, when you have this feeling that makes you cry because something has happened that I have to use the word sad, that makes you sad.
Yep.
In that moment, you are sad.
Yep.
But instead of even saying I am sad, you just notice that you are sad. And you just be sad.
Yes. Yes, that's being present with what's occurring, and without the need for it to be any different.
Sadness is occurring now, so I'm being sad now.
Yes, and
Well, you notice.
A mind that is well concentrated and framed by the Eightfold Path will be sad when it's appropriate to be sad.
Right.
Again,
Okay.
and this is a way of having a true experience of life rather than thinking that something should be different than it is, which again is objectifying what's occurring. It's taking you out of your body. So something happens that
makes you sad.
Be sad.
And you be sad.
Without judging it, without the need for it to be any different.
And without saying, wow, that was really awful. I hope I'm never sad again.
Yes. I had a talk with someone last night. I'm completely certain this person doesn't listen to these. But I'll leave it gender neutral anyway. This person is struggling with addiction. They just can't stop drinking. And a friend of theirs just died 2 days ago from a heroin overdose. And this person called and full of anger, full of sadness, full of all those emotions that happen when these terrible things. But what I said to her is, you need to stop drinking so you can feel these things and live your life, because these things happen. But even without using drugs and alcohol, we tend to want to ignore what's happening in our lives because we judge it as unacceptable in this moment. And that's when we lose our lives. We lose our minds. So a mind that understands the arising and the passing away of all phenomena, including friends ODing, and including things that are wonderful, beautiful sunsets, or holding a little baby in our arms, all of these things, we can be much more mindfully present and appreciate everything, including the things that we might have aversion to, because it's appropriate to feel this way. We don't run away from anything. We have united the mind and the body founded on a realistic view of life as a human being.
It doesn't like you notice sadness, like you notice your breath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like David said, the whole Dhamma is in the next breath. When we can be that, when we can be imbued with that amount of wisdom to understand this is life as life occurs, then we can finally be fully present. Which is exactly what the Buddha is teaching. We're not trying to create anything other than we're not trying to create anything. We're trying to be present with what's occurring through right view. Right view is a view, as the Buddha describes it, as a view that understands dukkha, the primary thing. Why was that so important? It's because of the unsatisfactory nature of life. The ego self will say, no, I don't want this experience, or I need more of it, rather than just being present with it. So sadness is a good example of that, because sadness, or the feeling of sadness is.
I would say that I just wanted, I'm interrupting you, sorry. Isn't it, just to take it one little tiny step further, noticing the sensation that you've identified as sadness?
Yes.
And kind of recognizing that because you have.
Well, it's somewhere on
That's
the
what I-
chain.
And there's a middle way.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to,
Because your conditioning has
What it,
decided.
Yeah, what I wanted to say that feeling of, notice this feeling, a feeling of great sadness is the same feeling of something that is so heartwarming that it brings us to tears too. It feels the same, doesn't it? But we have a different view of it. But it's when we look at it that way, we can recognize the ambiguity and the impermanence of all feelings, because now we're united. It's simply a feeling of being present in our lives. It's the same thing. Like,
anxiety has the same physiological feelings
Yes.
as excitement.
and the same.
It's your mind that creates the depression.
Yes.
Anxiety.
And the same.
and based on your past attachments, clingings, and conditioning, is going to drive that perspective.
The internal response, the
Until we
physiological
begin to-
response is the same. It's a cortisol response. It's a form of stress, even if it's something that's wonderful. If we go too far with that, we're actually causing some damage to the body.
I would imagine that different parts of the brain network are activated, whether it's excitement or anxiety, it's section part of the brain.
Yes.
I put money on it.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
But the feeling is often, it's almost indistinguishable. Okay, let me. there was a certain point I wanted to get to. It's 5 minutes to 10. Can everybody stay a little bit longer? Till like 1 or 2? That's it. I would say another 15 or 20 minutes.
I'm on a time schedule.
I'm leaving out a lot of commentary, but the Buddha continues. Whenever a monk trains himself, I will breathe in and breathe out, satisfying the mind. I will breathe in and breathe out, steadying the mind. I will breathe in and breathe out, releasing the mind. He's just, again, putting a little emphasis on what's occurring. Whatever comes up, I will breathe in and breathe out, and this will occur. I will breathe in and breathe out, releasing the mind. They remain focused on the mind in and of itself, free of distraction, ardent, aware, and mindful, while putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world. When this occurs, the monk remains mindful of the in-breath and the out-breath, free of distraction. Remember, he just synopsized everything he just taught in those last few lines. When you can remain mindful of the in-breath and the out-breath, sensitive to what's occurring, when this occurs, the monk remains mindful of the in-breath and the out-breath, free of distraction, ardent, alert, and mindful, while putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world. Again, you could say the whole Dhamma is included in that last description of what's occurring. The Buddha continues. So important, these lines. I do not say that there is the development of mindfulness of breathing for one who is forgetful of these instructions. Mindfulness of breathing if you're forgetful, or if you change them in some way, or who is not fully aware of these instructions. Whenever a monk trains himself, I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to impermanence. Again, so now that using impermanence is that in that way, it's sensitive to anything that's arising and passing away during meditation. If it's not distracting us, then we'll recognize the impermanence of it. Whenever a monk trains himself, I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to impermanence. I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to dispassion. I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to cessation, meaning you're recognizing and developing these qualities of mind. I will breathe in and breathe out, sensitive to relinquishment. We have developed the sensitivity of mind, a mind well concentrated, to notice letting go, noticing dispassion, noticing relinquishment. We need a mind well concentrated and well framed by the Eightfold Path in order to do this. On this occasion, the monk remains sensitive to all mental qualities, free of distraction, ardent, alert, and mindful, while putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world, to all mental qualities. Again, there's nowhere in here where the Buddha is teaching to contemplate these things or analyze them or label them. Just simply be mindful of the impermanence of all these mental qualities. Those who see with wisdom and understanding, meaning right view, the relinquishment, the abandoning of craving and distress, are those who have established right mindfulness with equanimity. When this occurs, this person remains mindful of all mental qualities, free of distraction, ardent, alert, and mindful, while putting aside craving and distress with reference to the world. This is how mindfulness of the in-breath and the out-breath is appropriately developed, so as to bring the 4 frames of reference and the 4 foundations of mindfulness to their culmination. So I think that's enough for today. Let's stop there. Now remember, that last line, the Buddha taught the 4 foundations of mindfulness as the foundation for developing the refined mindfulness of the Eightfold Path. So how do we bring that to its culmination? By mindfulness of the in-breath and the out-breath. That is how we should approach our meditation sessions. That's what we're doing in meditation, in Shamatha-Vipassana meditation, and keeping it in context with dependent origination and the Four Noble Truths. So that's today's talk. There'll probably be 2 or 3 more talks, and the first 2 are on the website. It's 10 o'clock, so let's just go around the room. I don't want to say quickly, but and I'd like to hear your comments, if any, on the meditation that we did, if you found that instructions useful, and it's okay to say if you don't like it. I'm not waiting to change it, but I'd like to hear it. Laura, good to see you.
Nice to be here. Yeah, like I said, when I first arrived, I really feel like this was like a renewal for my meditation practice, and I was able to like a little less sleepy and more attentive to the in and out breath and recognizing the impermanence of all things arising. So yeah, great. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm gonna have to sneak out. So I'm sorry, everyone's.
I'm so glad you made it.
But thank you.
Thank you. Say hello to Matt and the kids.
Bye, Laura. Bye. Bye.
Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning. I do appreciate the instruction because to me, the being aware of the impermanence of the thoughts that come into my mind. I think of the toddler in me sort of coming out and dangling these thoughts, and you're like, look at this. Just to know that, well, that's okay. That will pass, and don't grab onto it and get carried away by it, and just be present. And so the breath as a grounding for that is very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's right. That's great insight. A great way of seeing it too. Anthony, good to see you this morning.
I'm not used to the new meditations yet, and I'm actually glad you changed it because I think I was so used to the old ones that the new ones are throwing me off a little bit.
Yeah. So
I'm just curious why you changed it and why you like the one we're settling in on now.
Thank you. I really should explain it. One of the reasons why I'm doing it now is because, and as a Sangha, we've established the context of the Satipatthana Sutta over the summer, and now we're establishing the context of the Anapanasati Sutta. So I try not to teach anything that is out of context because it's hard to understand. This gets to the question, why I've changed something. This is something I wanted to do for quite a while, but I wanted to establish the context. Why am I teaching it? And so that answers the question. The new instructions simply point more to the 4 foundations of mindfulness and the Anapanasati Sutta to notice the impermanence of the arising and passing away. Instead of just being mindful of your breath, be mindful of your in-breath and your out-breath. And by being mindful, it's something Lorna said about 6 months ago or so, that she really understands that it's more than just the in-breath. And the experience of the breath is more than just the in-breath. And when we're focused just on that, that's an aspect of clinging. It's a very subtle aspect of clinging. But being mindful of the entire cycle of the breath is being mindful of being the impermanence of the breath and of all phenomena. Everything that arises passes away. And so when we look at the breath in a practical and metaphorical way, the arising, the in-breath, and the exhalation, the out-breath, that's the arising and the passing away of all phenomena. So the reason why I'm doing it now is just we have the context established now. And the reason why I'm teaching the Anapanasati Sutta in all classes rather than just one class is because the Sanghas are often different, and to establish the context in each class for the new instructions. And the new instructions are also on the website. I've changed all the guided meditations on the website, the recordings, with these new instructions.
So is it still considered Shamatha-Vipassana meditation?
Oh yeah, these are just, there's nowhere, I think I've yet to find where the Buddha actually guided a meditation. So the words that I use are based on his instructions on Shamatha-Vipassana meditation, which were primarily in 2 suttas, the Yuganada Sutta and the Kumsuka Sutta, and why he taught meditation, which is included in the Samadhi Sutta and others, and his explanation of the jhanas to deepen concentration. And then through understanding the 4 foundations of mindfulness appropriately and the Anapanasati Sutta appropriately, how he's pointing always back to the breath. And then you have to understand the word Shamatha-Vipassana, or what he used to describe and say, every meditation must have these 2 factors. Shamatha, quieting the mind, gaining insight to the 3 marks of existence. So yes, this is what the Buddha taught.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maura, good morning.
Good morning again. I wasn't going to say anything, but what sutta is it when the Buddha describes his awakening process, sitting and then
The Nagara Sutta.
The Nagara Sutta. And that's like, I mean, I find, which I said on Thursday nights, that in the practice of just following the directions, of being aware, being mindful, turning, noticing, turning, that deepening concentration, all those states arise as a result, dependent on deepening concentration. You're not doing them, you're not manufacturing them. That's the natural result of getting out of the way, basically. Yep. In a sense. So, and then you see how that one rises and the next one passes and changes into something else, but it's all as a result of just staying aware and present on the breath. Mm-hmm. And it always reminds, like, there's a piece that sometimes it will come up of thinking about the Buddha in that description of, and then final release. So even though the Buddha didn't teach a guided meditation, this is the almost like in the 12 steps when we say that the steps on the wall are the description of the process that unfolds.
Yes.
So this is, to me, the Anapanasati Sutta is like a description of what the Buddha awoke to on the day that he was able to stay and recognize all those states as impermanent, arising and passing, independent until final release.
Yes.
And extinguishment. So.
Yeah, thank you. And so the reason why there's probably no description of the Buddha giving a guided meditation like I do here in classes, there was no reason for it because the context was well established.
Yeah, the teachings were there and we recognized what it was, so then just stay.
Well, even in this sutta, this is what you do with the in-breath and the out-breath. Be sensitive to this, be sensitive to that, and come back to the sensation of breathing. And so what I would like to say is if the Buddha ever gave a guided meditation, I would think that it's pretty close to what we're meditating to. And again, the only reason I say that is because what I say relates to something that the Buddha taught. It's not just, become mindful of your breath and think of a sandy beach and a calm breeze and a warm puppy.
That's not what we practice here.
Be mindful of the breath.
I'm thinking about warm puppies.
I know. I know, I am too. Thank you, Maura. Jen, good to see you this morning.
I think early on when I first started coming, I heard a talk, or you did a series of talks, or a reading, or listen to a podcast.
Are you saying my body of work is getting a little confusing?
About the four foundations of mindfulness. And it was like one of the first teachings that kind of cut through for me. Like when I first started seeing myself in action, it was because of that teaching, and so it feels like coming back to the beginning when, so I do like that. I do like this teaching. As far as changing that meditation, I felt like it was like when you finally go to a different yoga teacher, and you're so resistant to it, and then you do it, and then you learn something totally different and new. And I did not realize how much, I almost right along with you were saying exactly, because I know exactly what you're going to say, and I'm saying it with you, and I just didn't realize how conditioned I was to the old ways, and now that you slightly changed it was just enough for me to really listen again. So, very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, I think if you didn't have a little bit of the context of why I was teaching, you'd be thinking, why is he saying this? Where does it fit?
Yeah.
But you understand it, so
I think
it's
for the
working
same
well.
reason, it's sometimes useful to not even have any guiding and just meditate.
Oh yeah.
You get very conditioned to what you're listening to if you listen to it enough. And then you expect, John's going to pop in 2 minutes and say, if you notice your breath, refocus on. If you're thinking, refocus on your breath. So sometimes you do get. I think it is sometimes useful not to have any guidance.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah, if you're well established in the technique, in the method, you don't need to. I mean, I don't think many of you actually listen to the guided meditations all that often. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's why we, here as a sangha, it's time to kind of reinforce what we're doing on our practice. But again, the recordings are out there. Yeah, I don't listen to a guided meditation. But one of the things that over the years I'm thinking this meditation to myself, and I have for a long time. And I realized this probably even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. My instructions are really lacking the total picture. But again, we didn't have the context in which to introduce it. And that's I was building that up over the summer, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Now this, I've been wanting to get to it for a while. So I'm glad you're finding it useful. Becky, good to see you.
Good to be here. I found that meditation to be very helpful. I felt like I was able to feel releasing more in that meditation than I have for quite a while. I've found I always feel better about meditating here, because I feel like there's help that you get from being with all these people that are doing it's just a nice thing to be here and meditate.
Yeah.
It's much easier to meditate here. And this so when I'm meditating at home, I find it very difficult to not be distracted. And here, when I meditate, it's less difficult. But today, I felt really focused on that meditation. I felt like I just felt things let go. I felt myself sort of just letting go. That's the only thing I can say. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just like
Relinquishment. It's good.
And it was very soothing. It's extremely soothing to have that feeling of being able to let go just for an instant. Anyway, I like it.
So can I put words in your mouth and say that soothing means you were calming bodily fabrications? It works, doesn't it?
I didn't want to attach any language to the feeling.
Sorry about that.
I wanted to be in the moment.
Thank you, Becky. Good morning, Diane.
Whatever I'm okay with, I like change because it keeps me alert to what's going on in the moment. The main thing that I'm getting a handle on is ego doesn't want me to concentrate. And the more I'm aware of, that just covers a whole plethora of stuff. And the minute I'm not on the breath, I know I'm in ego or conditioned thinking or whatever. And that helps me a lot.
Thank you. It's good insight. Lorna, good morning.
Good morning. I really like the new meditation, the callbacks, the introduction callbacks. I think it's very, very helpful in keeping you focused and mindful of the breath, both the arising and the passing away. And for me, it's the passing away, it's the tough one to notice.
Yeah.
In the new meditation, you can see that the passing away, you can expand it to everything in your past has passed away.
Oh yeah, wow.
All the awkward moments, the pleasant moments, the happy moments, the sad moments in our lives have passed away. Passed away. And in that, you can see that from this moment on, it's a lot cleaner and not brighter, but it's the opportunities and all that, because you're not, because you understand that the past has passed away, future seems bigger and brighter, and because you can just look at it that way. And also, last week before, I can't remember, but one Saturday morning recently, I mentioned about the anatta is establishing yourself in the moment. Your mind flashes back into the past to help establish who you are at the moment. Right. And the new meditation, I think, sort of just cuts through that.
Yeah.
That the passing away, in the understanding that the past has passed away, it helps release you from your mental fabrications of who you think you are or who you thought you were or whatever. And I think, I can't tell you just how helpful I have found it, I really can't. And just to emphasize that what we do in our meditation hopefully reflects through in our lives.
Yeah.
It's all the same practice, really. Yesterday, I found I sat, this is an achievement for me, I sat in a comfy chair at home for about 45 minutes with a calm and peaceful mind, with no screen, no music, nothing going on. There was nothing going on. I just sat at home in a comfy chair, calm and peaceful for about 45 minutes. And I haven't done that since I was a kid, I don't think.
Most people would say the same thing.
Yeah. So thank you. And thank you for all the work you've done to prepare this. It's a lot of work for you to introduce a new sutta. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's it's certainly a labor of love. That isn't it just remarkable to be able to sit for 45 minutes without having anything to be any different but just sitting? And isn't it remarkable that you can remark on that? That there is something remarkable. You would think that the most natural thing that any human being could do is just to sit quietly and do nothing, except it's so hard for almost everyone.
Yeah.
Because the self-referential ego self, anatta, has to always keep itself going. It has to be established in something. It can't, there's not much ego in, Thank you.
There's a famous philosopher, I don't remember who it is, who said all of society's problems can be traced to man's, they were sexist back then, inability to sit in a room quietly.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is true. It's a good way of gauging your own development in the Dhamma too. How often do you allow yourself to sit quietly without something going on?
Without chips.
Or always, well, even that. Do you fill? Are you constantly filling up your 24-hour days with 24-hour stuff?
Yeah.
And if you look at most of the stuff that we think we have to do, we don't have to do. But we do it because we can't sit still for 5, 10, 15, 45 minutes. And it's just a good barometer of how your Dhamma practice is developing. Notice it. How much quiet time do you give yourself? How much time do you find yourself sitting around doing nothing? If you're awakening. Debbie, good to see you this morning.
Well, I really struggled today to stay awake. and then I have guilt about that, you know, so I'm just trying to breathe with the guilt. You know. And be kind to myself. Those words of sloth and laziness kind of, you know, are going through my head. Torpor. Because I can definitely understand, you know, for myself, why I might be tired. So anyway, that was one of the things that was occurring for me today. The other thing is coming in and having you talking before the meditation. I found myself having resistance and aversion to that. It's like, aren't we gonna meditate? Did somebody change? You know, it's like felt like where I was pulled out from under me or something. But I recognized that too. I was aware of my own reaction. Like I missed out on something because I missed last week, but I also had listened to last week and I didn't hear that was happening. So
yeah, I didn't start these talks until Tuesday.
Right. So when you say it's going to be on Tuesdays, are you repeating it or are you starting on Tuesday and then doing the next one on Thursday and the next one on Saturday? That was the part I didn't understand.
I'm sorry.
I'm missing the first two.
Yes, the sutta and with the commentary is about 8,000 words long. So obviously I couldn't do that in one class,
Right.
but I want to introduce the new meditation method in each class. And so, in other words, Tuesday I taught about the first quarter of the sutta. Thursday was another, maybe the percentages are off, but another 10 or 15%. Today we're up to about 60% of the sutta.
I see. So it is a continuation.
Yes, but not just in one class. So Tuesday, I'll probably finish the series, I think next Thursday, but I'm not sure how long each class is going to be.
If we want to do the whole series, we have to get on and read.
Yeah, you got to listen to more talks and read.
There is some repetition.
There is, but again, I'm starting each class about the same, but I'm just getting deeper into the sutta. You know, so what I actually read after our meditation was mostly new stuff in relation to Tuesday and Thursday. But yeah, you please read the whole sutta, and if you have time, listen to the talks. But it's one of the most important teachings, keeping in mind that it's inferior to the other superior or foundational teachings. So, and it's always a good idea to be gentle with yourself when you notice the hindrances. I gave a talk on, my Wednesday Dhamma talk was on just that, being gentle with ourselves when we notice the hindrances arising, rather than judging ourselves harshly. And even that sloth or torpor, that's common. You know, it's even outside of meditation practice. I remember times when I used to judge myself when I was exhausted, like there was something wrong with it, even after a long day of doing this and doing that. It's strange how the mind works, you know, but always be gentle with yourself.
Well, and I also just wanted to, with what Ed said about recognizing that a lot of times it's the ego that's just responsible for the distraction.
Yeah.
So that was helpful.
It is. And all of that, again, getting back to the sutta, just notice that any of these distractions are just that. Come back to the breath. One of the great refuge of meditation is just that. At least during that, 5, 10, 15, 20, 45 minutes that we're meditating, nothing else has to happen except mindfulness of the breath. We can give ourselves a break from that, the constant needs of a never satisfied ego personality. Great refuge. Thank you,
Anyway,
Debbie.
so the impermanence of meditation and the way it's guided was okay for me. I guess once I understood,
Yeah.
So
And again,
I appreciated it actually.
Yeah, I think it helps refine the focus even more. But again, I think out of context, it would have been much more difficult for you to at least understand why is he changing all this. Mary, good to see you this morning.
Good to be here. I didn't mind the change at all. I mean, because usually when I meditate, I end up concentrating on both the in-breath and the out-breath.
Yeah.
It's just naturally fit. I'm going to go back and listen to the talks now, though, so I can understand better what the steps are.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Great.
I'll make the change for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope all of you can. It's a lot, but this is really a nearly foundational teaching. And again, there's recordings of this new. I already put them up on the website if you want to refresh yourselves with it. So thank you for staying with me. We'll finish with metta, as we always do. And I want to thank the folks that joined online too. I have a feeling it might be David and Mary. But hello. And just a reminder that right after the new year on January 2nd, and on the same as last year, we're going through the Truth of Happiness course again for over about 12 weeks. So we'll start that on the 2nd, and the same class on Tuesday will be the same class on Saturday. And on Thursday nights, I'll be introducing some new suttas that I've been writing commentary on.
And if you think you've been through it before, you're a different person now.
Oh yeah, you haven't been through it yet. Yeah, that's the idea.
Yourself.
The idea of a stream enter,
I'm looking forward.
I am too. From one of the wonderful things of having this seat is just seeing how other people are developing it, and it's remarkable how well focused this sangha is, and that there's more to learn. All right. Find your relaxed meditative posture and gently close your eyes and gently close your mouths. And again, take a moment to be mindful of your in-breath and your out-breath, the arising and the passing away of your breath and all phenomena. And these are the Buddha's words on metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful class this morning. Peace.